Friday night in Canberra, as I said before, it's going to be the Raiders and the Bunnies. Gentlemen, let's talk about the Canberra Raiders. 4 players in particular. Firstly, their attacking focal point, Josh Hodgson. Different type of hooker to Damien Cook. Mate, this bloke's a playmaker. And what's it like playing against him, Benji? Is he much of a talker out on the field?
Oh, he is, and he's a great player. What he does is he gets their sets going, he brings their players onto the ball, and his deception out of dummy half is probably the best out of any hooker in the competition. You know, if he shows left, he always goes out right, and that just puts teams under pressure. And geez, he's a great player.
Hey, geez, that's a good string to his bow. Those one-on-one strips,
and his pass selection too, Matty. You know, he gets it to the right person at the right time, and like you said, these one-on-one steals, they've been huge, and it could be huge in a semi-final to get the ball back or change the momentum. So, you know, he's the leader of that team, really important for the
Johnny
Raiders.
Bateman sits out on the right. Let's talk about him, mate. Athletic, he's tough, unorthodox. Yeah.
Well,
he's just a different type of player.
Yeah, he's not your usual wide running back rower. He's got all that English sort of game in him where you don't really know what he's going to do, but it's his toughness and his competitiveness. I heard Ricky Stewart saying that he's been the most competitive bloke he's coached. Obviously, forgot about me and Finchy. But,
exactly.
But he has been a revelation. He's got a little of that toughness.
Yeah, his game stands up in any type of game. If they've got plenty of footy and on a roll, he can use his skill out on the edge. But if it's an arm wrestle and a grind, he's more than happy to roll the sleeves up and play tough. So he's a quality player.
Talk about the runner of the football, Jack Wighton. Benji, mate, 2019, you can see Wighton, he's realised his potential.
Oh, what a season he's had. You know, obviously he's a strong runner of the footy, and playing in the halves can be quite different to what he's been used to, playing fullback and playing centre. But I think he's really taken it in his stride. His little kicks down short sides, getting them out of trouble with pressure. But his defence is what's the most impressive. He whacks guys, you know, he gets off the line, and he's a big half, putting pressure on back rows.
The other thing about two boys with your playmakers, and as you blokes know, we're playing in the halves, every player has their favourite player they like to follow. And you can see, if you watch Hodgson, what's really interesting, Hodgson gets right up in his toes when Papali cuts the ball forward. You see him a lot of times get out of dummy half on the back of Papali. He's their key as far as their go forward is concerned.
Oh, Papali's probably been the best front row in the comp this year, along with Nelson. But, geez, hasn't he had a great season for him? Just getting them on the front foot. And he looks a lot fitter this year to me. And I think his minutes being able to play longer for their team has just made them even more potent in attack.
Well, it's more consistent, isn't he? He's a lot more consistent with his footy. He's always had quality football in him. But like the team, the individuals, their key individuals have been a lot more consistent with their game. And Papali...
What do you reckon? What do you reckon, Finchy? Do you reckon Ricky will start him off the bench next week?
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I think he could come off the bench, didn't he, last?
Yeah, he did,
Melbourne?
yes.
Yeah, well, I think if he'll stick with that. But, you know, the bench is just important.
It depends how you want to play South, right? They got a lot of big guys, South themselves. So once you tire out their front rowers and bring them on for that little stint where they're on for maybe 5 or 10, could be really effective for them.
Let's talk about the Bunnies. And Damien Cook, you talk about attacking focal point. He's the man, you know, particularly when he's got the ability. When they get forward through the middle and he can jump out and drive deep in the markers, they're really dangerous.
Well, he's a bit like Hodgson in the sense that he knows when to go on that quick play the ball. And I suppose his triggers are the Burgess boys. Yeah. Especially Sam, and I know Cam Murray when he plays in the middle as well. As soon as you see they get a quick play the ball, he's off. And then off he goes.
You see, that brings Alex Johnson, Cody Walker, brings all those plays, particularly Walker, brings Walker into play.
And with a lot of errors the other night against Manly, so they've really got no rhythm to their attack. When they get in an arm wrestle set for set, that's when Cook comes into the game. Yeah. The opposition gets tired, the markers might get a bit sloppy, and he can start darting.
He's their key to attack. I thought last night was probably the least effective he's been this season for him, and they put a lot of pressure on him, and their markers stepping out, taking away that little one step to get out around him and get forward. And you know, I think he might have to adapt his game this week to try and counter-attack that.
Fletcher touched on it. You know, as we said, if Hodgson likes to follow Papali, 2 key men, Sam Burgess and Cameron Murray. And Sam and Cameron, they're so different. Sam's about forward power. Murray's about speed and footwork. Yeah, well, Sam came back, obviously, against the Chooks a couple of weeks ago, and I don't think he was right. He had that quad injury. But this kid here, he's a bit like Bateman in the sense that he's unorthodox and gets the quick... I think he's the quickest player of the ball. Cameron's got the quickest player of the ball in the competition. Yeah, but Sam Burgess is just a leader. He's one of those players that gives confidence to his teammates.
They're spiritual leader.
They look more confident when he's there. Simple as that. And Cam Murray, he took his game to a new level the other night against Manly when the game was on the line. You know, he was involved, up to his ears. So.
Geez, they're relaxed, South. I think about South, like, you can see they're having a good time.
Well, there's no pressure on them going down to King.
I was going to say... There's a bit of pressure on the Raiders. They're at home and huge expectation of be. I can imagine everything to be. They're saying the green sausages are out again. What about
mate, you crook?
Yeah, I know. Right one, please. Mate, what about who wins this game?
I think South do.
Yeah. I'm going the upset. Just for that fact, I think they're going to go down there with nothing to lose.
So that just wins games, does it?
Hey?
Having nothing to lose wins
Well,
games.
the pressure's not going to get to them. Down there, this is the first time Canberra have ever had played down there.
I think Canberra all year have been one of the best defensive sides, and you know, competitions are won on the back of defence. And I thought, you know, from last year to this year, their transition and how good they are defensively is scary to oppositions, and I think they can go all the way. Your argument wins, I think. You sound a lot more convincing than you two, Lucas.
I don't even think... We didn't even put one up there. We didn't even give it a shot.
Oh, very
I
good.
lost it after the green sausage.
I'm thinking that white one.
Saturday night at the SCG. What a game this is going to be. Honestly, the Roosters go in without their front row enforcer, Joe Hargraves, up against the Melbourne Storm. Let's talk about the Roosters first of all. Talk about Luke Keary. And let's talk about his playmaking. Terrific run of the football, but his playmaking here. He's got two options, Keary. Oftentimes he goes to Latrell. When he goes to Latrell long, he gives it to him nice and early, or he pump fakes and hits Cordner short. But playing with a lot of confidence at the moment, Benji.
Yeah, he is, and he's just one of those players that attracts defensive attention, and as soon as you plant your feet on him and you have to isolate, or the half comes in and tries to take him, he just frees up Latrell for that little split second, and you know what he does? He creates space for his outside players and makes them look better, which to me is a sign of a
Benji, what is the
half.
game plan when you go in against the Chooks, especially on their left edge?
Well, it's hard because they got strike everywhere, right? So you have to try and limit the opportunities. And with the Roosters, they don't beat themselves. So you have to stay in the grind and go set for set with them, kick them out of their corners, and they're going to be hard to beat, mate.
Interesting watching a lot of halves play this year, like particularly halves that have come through in that system. You know, you play left, you play right. Oftentimes the halves play a little bit like strangers. It's not the case with Cronk and Keary. And what we've seen, the more they've played together, the better they've looked naturally. But the ability of Keary and Cronk to work in combination, they loop to each other's sides, makes them very dangerous.
It does, Finch. And you would know playing in the halves, like, you know, you got to play to your strengths, right? So Cooper's strengths are he's on the ball, dominating where the field position is, and Keary's strength is his running game and his ability to set up other players. So when you have Cronk at 1 and Keary at 2, it's just so hard to read, and you can't manufacture a defensive plan to try and stop that.
He's always moving, Luke. Luke's always on the ball. He's following the ball everywhere. I think you've got to make the Roosters uncomfortable. A lot of good teams, they're so used to winning a certain way or playing at their own tempo that they can get flustered, you know, playing out of comfort. So for the Storm, they've really got to get in their face, really slow down the play of the balls and force them into, you know, playing a style they don't like.
Tedesco, what a season he's had. And the big improvement in Tedesco's game, Benji, has been his ability to play with playmakers, not just do things, you know, off the bat by himself brilliantly. The ability to combine with Cronk and Keary, but by the same time, that footwork and the strength.
Oh, mate, his running game's always been phenomenal, Matty, but I think he's added another string to his bow this year with his ball playing. You know, there's been a couple of 3-on-2 options where he's just taken the right option, where probably in the past he think about running first. His tempo is phenomenal out the back of their plays.
Cameron Smith, boys, you know, he's in the argument when you talk about the greatest big game players of all time. What an asset to have coming into this game.
Well, they're going to the cricket ground where I think the Roosters are averaging about 30, 40 points against the opposition.
Yep.
So it's going to be a huge ask for Melbourne. But having this bloke in your team gives you a chance, because he just seems to be getting better and better.
Bellamy would have held his breath. Like when he saw that scuffle go on, and it turns out it's nothing, but when he'd have been... Bellamy would have held his breath.
Smith, he probably dislocated his shoulders like Monty Burns throwing one of those punches. But if they go forward like they did tonight, Melbourne, he can just control the game.
Yeah.
And that's what they need. Like you said, Benj, if they're not going forward, then it puts more pressure on Jerome Hughes and the halves to come up with plays. But whenever they're rolling forward, and this bloke can control it, they're always a threat.
Really important for Jerome Hughes. You saw tonight when Jerome Hughes starts to assert a little bit of dominance, it lets Munster do what Munster's does best. He's like Mr. Unorthodox. Lets him roam the field a little bit, just react. That's his beauty.
People questioned if that combination was going to work, Hughes and Munster, after last week's game, right?
Yeah.
So with Hughes getting that confidence tonight and really taking the line on and dominating where their plays went, you just let Munster free up and be the player he is. You know, he takes the line on. I love it when Munster gets that left foot step, gets the palm out and running, and then he becomes a natural threat to the defensive line and then creates space for other people. So they're going to be dangerous, mate. You know, you can't write them off against a good Roosters side.
There he is there, Munster. I'll tell you what, Benji, Tigers fans next Saturday night, will sit there with, like, crying tears of blood when you look at the two fullbacks. You've got Tedesco and you've got Ryan Pappenhausen.
Yeah, it hurts a bit, doesn't it?
Two Tigers juniors. But has Pappenhausen surprised you boys this year? how he's just exploded on the scene and held form.
I'd never heard of him, but I hadn't heard of a lot of players, as you've always mentioned that, Matty, to me.
Well, actually, when I talked about Luke Keary before, you sort of looked at me and said...
I think you thought about Ivan. At that game, it was a Thursday night game, and he came off the bench, and he was just... You could just tell that he was going to have a future down there, but to actually break into that side...
Yeah.
He's got X factor too, Matty.
Yeah,
and in the big games, you need someone who can just change the game in the blink of an eye, and he's got that in his arsenal.
Grand final night last year, one of the things was evident when you watched it. The Roosters just attacked Melbourne with that underdog mentality. Who wins this one?
Benji?
Well, it's going to be a tough one. I think Melbourne are the underdogs this time, so it's probably a little bit of a different story.
Yeah.
You know, and I think from Melbourne losing last week, it actually gave them a lot more hunger and drive, probably where they cruised through the season with a lot of wins.
Yep.
I think that drive's going to come. I'm going to tip Melbourne this week.
I'm going to go Storm.
Chooks. Week off.
Yeah.
Very important having that week off.
Yeah.
Boyd Cordner's back, by the way, if you didn't know.
I'm just going to let you keep going.
Good research.
I can see you hitting a dead end there.